Welcome to Shadow Frames, where forgotten images reveal their darkest secrets. Tonight, we examine a photograph that defies the boundary between celebration and the impossible. A birthday party from 1912, where something isn't quite right. The photograph was discovered in the attic of the Henderson estate in Massachusetts, carefully preserved in an ornate silver frame, nestled within a cedar chest filled with family keepsakes. The sepia-toned image shows a birthday celebration, with a young girl seated at the head of a table adorned with a white lace tablecloth. Her name, according to the elegant script on the back of the photograph, is Lillian Henderson, and this appears to be her 12th birthday. Lillian sits primly in her chair, a white dress with intricate embroidery framing her solemn face. Her hair is styled in perfect ringlets, tied back with a satin ribbon. She doesn't smile, common for photographs of the era, but there's something in her eyes that seems to reach across time with an unspoken plea. Around her, 9 other people are gathered, adults in formal attire and children in their Sunday best. A 3-tiered cake sits before Lillian, topped with what appears to be 12 candles. The room is decorated with paper streamers and flowers, typical of an upper-class celebration from the early 1900s. At first glance, it's simply a well-preserved memory of Edwardian gentility, a family celebrating a child's special day. But closer examination reveals subtle disturbances. The other party guests seem to be leaning away from Lillian, creating a noticeable space around her. Their expressions carry a strained quality, smiles that don't reach their eyes, and most telling, there are shadows where there shouldn't be, particularly around the birthday girl herself. What makes this image truly unsettling is what the current owners of the Henderson estate discovered when researching their family history. According to parish records, cemetery documentation, and the Henderson family Bible, Lillian Henderson died of scarlet fever in 1910, 2 full years before this birthday celebration supposedly took place. Yet here she is, seemingly alive and well, celebrating her 12th birthday in 1912. The cake, the decorations, the clothing styles, all consistent with the date written on the back of the photograph in faded ink. The other party attendees have been identified as Henderson family members who were indeed alive in 1912. Each face has been matched to other family photographs and records. Only Lillian's presence cannot be explained. Was this an elaborate hoax? A photographic trick employing a Lillian look-alike to ease the family's grief? Or something far more disturbing? A moment when the veil between worlds thinned enough for a departed child to return for the birthday celebration she never lived to see. As we investigate further into this impossible birthday party, we must ask, did the Henderson family knowingly gather to celebrate with a ghost? Or is there a more sinister explanation for why they arranged a birthday party for a girl who had already been in her grave for 2 years? The Henderson family archive yielded additional materials that shed disturbing light on this anomalous photograph. A leather-bound journal belonging to Eleanor Henderson, Lillian's mother, contains entries spanning the months before and after the supposed birthday gathering. The handwriting becomes increasingly erratic after Lillian's documented death, with several pages torn out entirely. One entry, dated 3 days before the photographed celebration, reads, "We shall proceed as planned. Dr. Whitcomb advises against it, says it will only deepen our suffering, but he doesn't understand. A mother knows. A mother always knows when her child is still present." The Henderson family had deep connections to the spiritualist movement sweeping America in the early 20th century. Society pages from the Boston Evening Transcript show Eleanor attended seances regularly after her daughter's passing. Several renowned mediums of the era, including the controversial Madame Serena Castell, were frequent visitors to the Henderson estate during 1911 and 12. Particularly revealing is a receipt found pressed between the journal pages for an unusual purchase from an apothecary in Salem. Ingredients commonly associated with ritualistic practices: wormwood, black salt, and beeswax candles. The receipt is dated just 1 week before the birthday party. Photographic analysis conducted by Dr. Miriam Tully, forensic photography specialist at Massachusetts State University, identified several troubling elements. The light source in this image is inconsistent, explains Dr. Tully. Shadows fall naturally for all subjects except Lillian. The shadow beneath her chair extends at an impossible angle compared to the others. Additionally, there's a subtle luminescence around her figure, almost imperceptible without enhancement. When digitally analyzed under various light spectrums, another chilling detail emerged. Barely visible to the naked eye, A thin string or cord appears to extend from behind Lillian's back, disappearing into the shadowed doorway behind her. Dr. Tully remains cautious in her assessment, noting that photographic manipulation existed even in 1912. Perhaps most unsettling are the accounts from household staff. Parish records include testimony from Martha Wilkins, a Henderson housemaid who later suffered a nervous collapse. Before being institutionalized at Lakewood Asylum in 1915, she provided a sworn statement to her priest describing the birthday party. "They made us prepare as if the child lived. Mrs. Henderson selected the dress from the sealed trunk where the dead girl's things were kept. The cake was made exactly to Miss Lillian's preference, lemon with raspberry preserve. But it was what happened when they sang to her that I cannot bear to recall. How her head turned too far when Mr. Henderson called her name. The way the candles extinguished all at once, though no breath touched them. And later, the scratching we all heard from inside her bedroom wall, though Mrs. Henderson forbade anyone from speaking of it. The dining room where the photograph was taken was permanently closed off following the celebration, according to architectural modifications filed with the county in 1913. That section of the house remained sealed until renovations began in 1954, when workers discovered curious markings carved into the floorboards beneath the carpet, concentric circles surrounding what appeared to be a child's handprints pressed into the hardwood. Further investigation into the Henderson family tree revealed a disquieting pattern that had been overlooked until now. Lillian was not the first Henderson child to die young, nor was she the last. County records show that in each generation since 1870, at least one Henderson child perished before their 13th year. What makes this pattern particularly unnerving is that family photographs, now analyzed chronologically, show striking resemblances between these deceased children, all girls with the same distinctive widow's peak and unusually deep-set eyes. The current property owner granted access to previously unexplored sections of the basement, where a collection of damaged wax cylinder recordings was discovered. Audio restoration specialists from Miskatonic University managed to recover partial content from one cylinder dated May 19, 1912, 2 days after the birthday party. The recording captures Eleanor Henderson's voice, initially calm, but growing increasingly agitated. The procedure was successful, though not as we anticipated. She returned, yes, but changed. Thomas insists we've fulfilled our obligation and must now complete the severance ritual. The crows have gathered on the north lawn again. 37 this morning, always her favorite number. The recording continues after a period of silence. The portrait artist fled without completing his commission, claimed his paints kept changing color on the canvas. We've had to rely solely on photography, though none capture her true essence as she is now. A groundskeeper's logbook contains a cryptic entry from the same period. Buried the remaining cake as instructed. Northeast corner under the willow. 3rd time this month I've been asked to bury things after dark, giving notice next week. Among the Henderson artifacts, researchers discovered a curious item, a child's music box with a porcelain ballerina. Family letters reference it as Lillian's most treasured possession, reportedly buried with her in 1910. Yet here it was, its mechanism still functional, playing a tinny version of Beautiful Dreamer when wound. Most disturbing was the discovery of a small compartment hidden in its base, containing a child's milk tooth wrapped in silk thread and a lock of dark hair. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, parapsychologist who examined the photograph using thermal imaging technology, noted, "The temperature variation is remarkable. While most of the image registers at ambient levels, the space occupied by Lillian appears significantly colder, a full 15 degrees below the surrounding area. This temperature anomaly forms a perfect outline of her figure, extending slightly behind her chair in what appears to be the shape of upright adult hands resting on her shoulders." Parish records reveal that Father James Sullivan, who presided over Lillian's funeral in 1910, was summoned to the Henderson home 3 days after the birthday celebration. His diocesan report, sealed until 1970, described being called to perform what he termed an unseemly ritual of separation that he initially refused. The report concludes with his request for temporary leave from duties, citing a profound disturbance of spirit after witnessing events that challenged the natural order as ordained by God. The Hendersons' neighbors, the Whitmores, moved away abruptly that same week, selling their property at a considerable loss. Their departure correspondence, preserved in county records, contains only a brief explanation. "We cannot remain where the boundary is so thin, nor where night brings sounds no child should make. One item from the Henderson collection garnered particular interest from paranormal researchers: a silver hand mirror found wrapped in Lillian's baptismal gown. When photographed, the mirror consistently shows a reflection that doesn't match its surroundings, instead displaying what appears to be a child's bedroom from the early 20th century. More disturbing still, photographic plates occasionally capture a small face peering from the mirror's depths, though no such reflection is visible to the naked eye. The Henderson family physician's records, recently unsealed by court order, reveal that Eleanor Henderson underwent an experimental procedure in 1911, shortly after Lillian's death. Dr. Whitcomb's notes describe administering regular injections of an unidentified compound he refers to only as the Dresden formula. His clinical observations detail Eleanor's increasing receptivity to transdimensional resonance and heightened sensitivity to presence remnants. A telegram sent from Thomas Henderson to his brother-in-law in Philadelphia, dated the morning after the birthday celebration, contains a cryptic message: "Renewal achieved but containment uncertain. Bring the specialized equipment we discussed. Eleanor cannot sustain the bridge much longer. Child behavior increasingly erratic." Architectural plans for the 1913 renovation of the Henderson home show unusual modifications. The sealed dining room was not simply closed off but completely encased within a new wall, constructed of alternating layers of lead sheeting and cedar planking, materials traditionally believed to contain spiritual energy. Additionally, the plans show a complex network of copper pipes installed beneath the flooring in a pattern resembling ancient binding sigils. Local newspaper archives contain reports of unusual phenomena in the vicinity of the Henderson estate following the birthday gathering. 3 separate accounts describe birds falling dead from the sky over the property, their bodies arranged in perfect circles on the ground. A local pond reportedly froze solid on a July afternoon for approximately 27 minutes before returning to its liquid state. Professor Amelia Blackburn, folkloric historian specializing in New England family lineages, uncovered a disturbing connection between the Hendersons and an obscure 17th century text. The family appears in translations of Thresholds Unsealed, a banned manuscript that details rituals for creating what it terms anchoring vessels for spirits with unfinished earthly business, explains Blackburn. The text specifically mentions the need for a maternal conduit, typically the mother of the deceased, who serves as a biological bridge. Perhaps most unsettling is what contemporary paranormal investigators experienced when bringing the birthday photograph to the former Henderson property. Electronic equipment malfunctioned in specific patterns. Voice recorders played only a child's humming regardless of their previous content, while thermal cameras detected a small, cold signature that appeared to follow the photograph as it was moved throughout the house. A music teacher from Lillian's school provided written testimony in 1916, claiming to have seen the girl practicing piano 3 years after her documented death. When approached, the figure reportedly turned and asked, "Am I doing it right this time? Mother says I must practice if I want to stay." Before the teacher could respond, the figure dissolved into what she described as a column of black smoke that smelled of birthday candles and grave soil. Recent examination of town census records reveals a forgotten connection. Vivian Caldwell, a young woman employed brief months in the Henderson household as Lillian's companion in 1909. Caldwell's employment was terminated abruptly, with household accounts showing a substantial severance payment 3 weeks before Lillian's illness. Parish charity registries show Vivian received emergency housing assistance after suffering what was described as profound nervous exhaustion. Researchers located Caldwell in a nursing home in western Massachusetts, now aged 124. Though her physical health is fragile, her mind remains remarkably lucid. During a recorded interview, she initially refused to discuss her time with the Hendersons, becoming visibly distressed. Only when shown the birthday photograph did she finally speak, her fingers trembling as they hovered above Lillian's image without touching it. "She knew before any of them," Caldwell whispered. "Came to my room one night, sat at the foot of my bed, said she'd been practicing how not to die. Said her mother taught her the words to say when the fever came." Caldwell described how Lillian would sometimes stand in corners, whispering conversations with someone unseen. "The last thing she told me, 3 days before they sent me away, she said deaths can be undone if you save enough birthdays." The interview was abruptly terminated when Caldwell became agitated, insisting that Lillian was now standing behind the researcher. Nursing staff reported that Caldwell's room temperature dropped 18 degrees during this episode, and her personal effects were later found arranged in a perfect circle on her floor, though she is bedridden and could not have moved them herself. An unexplained footnote emerged when researchers discovered Eleanor Henderson's death certificate from 1914. Though official records attribute her death to heart failure, the attending physician's private notes describe a more unusual condition. Patient's tissues display advanced desiccation inconsistent with any known disease. Cellular examination suggests rapid extraction of vital fluids. Body presents as though decades of aging occurred within weeks. Thomas Henderson commissioned a second birthday portrait exactly 1 year later, May 17, 1913, though no photograph from this event has been found. His journal entry from that date contains only one sentence: "She is hungrier this time." Particularly troubling is the recent discovery that the Henderson property has changed hands 14 times since 1920, with each family experiencing the death of a female child within a year of taking residence. County utility records show unusual power consumption patterns matching the week of May 17th across multiple decades. The current owners report their 8-year-old daughter recently began describing playdates with the birthday girl who lives in the mirror. Child psychologists attributed this to normal imaginative play until the girl produced a hand-drawn portrait showing a child in period clothing with 12 candles arranged around her in a circle. When asked about her drawing, she explained matter-of-factly, "Lillian says mothers can keep you forever if they know the right song. She's teaching me the words so I can stay too." A final piece of evidence defies explanation. The original photograph, when removed from climate-controlled storage last week, now shows 13 candles on Lillian's cake, where 12 had been documented for over a century. The Henderson case deepened with the discovery of an overlooked item during archival digitization: a doctor's prescription pad found pressed between the final pages of Eleanor Henderson's journal. The prescription, written in Dr. Whitcomb's distinctive hand, was for an unusual compound called suspended essence, with instructions to administer 3 drops under the tongue during the dark of the moon. Pharmaceutical historians identified this as a rare tincture containing belladonna and certain ergot derivatives, substances known to alter perception and create what 19th century spiritualists called permeable consciousness. More revealing was the discovery of an undelivered letter from Thomas Henderson to the director of Lakewood Asylum, dated 2 weeks after Eleanor's death. In it, he urgently requests the release of former housemaid Martha Wilkins, writing, "She alone knows the precise pattern of words that must be spoken to close what my wife has opened. Without this knowledge, I fear what emerged partially at the birthday celebration will manifest completely by the next observance." Soil analysis from the northeast corner of the property, where the groundskeeper buried the birthday cake, revealed abnormal concentrations of iron and phosphorus, consistent with blood saturation, though no human remains were ever reported found there. More puzzling were the deep root structures discovered beneath this spot, configured in patterns that botanists confirm no natural plant growth could create, elaborate spirals reminiscent of fingerprint whorls. A significant breakthrough came through spectrographic analysis of the birthday photograph's emulsion layer. Dr. Harlow from MIT's Paranormal Imaging Department identified microscopic text repeatedly inscribed throughout the photograph's chemical substrate. The phrase, "give back what is taken," appears over 2,000 times in an area the size of a postage stamp, invisible to the naked eye. The handwriting matches samples from Lillian's school primers. Further excavation of the former dining room revealed something the 1954 renovation crew apparently concealed: a child-sized chair affixed to the floor directly beneath where Lillian sat in the photograph. The chair's legs were set into concrete bases with copper wiring wound around each leg and converging under the seat. Metallurgic dating confirms the wiring was installed in 1912, yet shows evidence of electrical scorching despite the Henderson home not being wired for electricity until 1916. Perhaps most chilling is what emerges from cross-referencing family records with astronomical events. Each Henderson child death across generations occurred during a specific celestial alignment, when Saturn cast a shadow on Jupiter, an event occurring every 41 years. Astronomer Dr. Eliza Montgomery confirmed the next such alignment occurs next month, coinciding with the current property owner's daughter's 9th birthday. The family has been temporarily relocated under research team supervision after their daughter woke screaming 3 nights consecutively. her bedsheets soaked not with sweat but what chemical analysis identified as pond water containing aquatic microorganisms extinct in Massachusetts since 1910, the year of Lillian's documented death. Local clergy have been consulted regarding possible protective measures, though parish records indicate historical ecclesiastical interventions at the property proved ineffective. As Father Sullivan wrote in his diary after visiting the Hendersons, "Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed by faith alone, particularly when what waits on the threshold wears the face of a beloved child." A startling connection emerged when researchers cross-referenced the Henderson case with military intelligence archives, recently declassified under the Freedom of Information Act. During World War II, the property was briefly commandeered by a specialized government unit investigating what official documents termed consciousness transference methodologies. The unit, operating under the codename Project Threshold, specifically requested the Henderson estate due to its unique energetic properties and documented history of successful dimensional bridging. The lead scientist, Dr. Conrad Everett, kept meticulous notes documenting unusual phenomena that occurred when equipment was installed in the former dining room. His journal describes instruments detecting consciousness echoes, strongest on May 17th, regardless of the year, and residual emotional imprints that contaminated experimental results. Most notably, Everett abandoned the project after 3 team members reported identical dreams of being approached by a young female subject requesting assistance with an ongoing birthday celebration. Analysis of Eleanor Henderson's remaining personal effects revealed something previously overlooked. Her wedding ring contains a hidden compartment beneath the central stone. Microscanning detected traces of what forensic specialists identify as preserved human tissue. DNA testing confirmed the tissue belongs to Lillian, suggesting Eleanor carried a piece of her daughter against her skin, creating what 19th century spiritualist texts described as a permanent sympathetic conduit. The Henderson Family Bible, recently subjected to multispectral imaging, revealed text written in invisible ink between standard verses. The hidden text appears to be a modified version of traditional naming rituals, but with disturbing inversions. Where traditional ceremonies release a soul to divine care, these alterations create what the text calls anchored perpetuation, a method to bind a departing consciousness to its family line. Thomas Henderson's financial records show substantial payments to an entity listed only as Eastern Provision Company, which historians have now confirmed was a shell corporation for an occult organization operating throughout New England. Their manifesto, recovered from private collections, outlined techniques for negotiating temporal extensions and biological continuity beyond termination, believing that family bloodlines could sustain a consciousness if proper rituals maintained an annual renewal point. Alarmingly, surveillance footage from the climate-controlled storage facility where the birthday photograph is kept shows inexplicable anomalies. During the early hours of May 17th each year, motion sensors activate despite no human presence. Thermal imaging captures a child-sized heat signature moving in front of the photograph's storage drawer. Audio recordings detect a faint voice repeating, "Is it time again? Have I earned another year?" The family, presently relocated from the Henderson property, reports their daughter now recites birth dates of all deceased Henderson children in her sleep, despite never being exposed to this information. More concerning, she has begun collecting cake candles, arranging them in patterns matching the burial plots in the Henderson family cemetery. Archaeological ground-penetrating radar recently detected an anomaly beneath Lillian's grave, a sealed metal container approximately the size of a music box. Cemetery regulations currently prevent excavation, but electromagnetic readings from the site show periodic pulses of activity corresponding precisely to the time of day Lillian was pronounced dead over a century ago. Most significantly, the tissue sample from Eleanor's ring yielded an unexpected genetic marker, one that doesn't appear in any other Henderson DNA samples except Lillian's. Geneticist Dr. Samira Patel identified it as a rare mitochondrial anomaly typically associated with extraordinary cellular regeneration. This mutation shouldn't exist in human tissue, Dr. Patel explained. It resembles regenerative properties found in certain immortal jellyfish species, suggesting deliberate genetic manipulation beyond 19th century capabilities. The team made a breakthrough when tracing the Henderson lineage back to 1720s France, where ancestor Marguerite Henderson, née Laurent, was documented fleeing accusations of unnatural practices to preserve youth. Her journal, preserved in a lion museum, describes a ritual learned from entities that dwell in the threshold spaces to create what she called vessels of continuation, using children whose souls remain malleable enough to accommodate more than one essence. Hospital records show Eleanor underwent an unauthorized procedure 5 months before Lillian's death. The surgeon, Dr. Ambrose Whitfield, was later committed to an asylum raving about the transference of the ancient mother. His surgical notes, written in increasingly frantic script, detail implanting something described only as the originator tissue into both Eleanor and Lillian. The final page contains a crude drawing of 3 female figures sharing a single shadow. Local folklorist Helena Martinez recently interviewed elderly residents near the Henderson estate, documenting consistent accounts of a calendar phenomenon where each May 17th, clocks throughout the neighborhood allegedly stop at 3:14 p.m., the precise time of Lillian's birth. Several residents described hearing a child's laughter emanating from empty rooms, followed by a sharp drop in temperature and the smell of birthday cake. The current owner's daughter, now under psychiatric observation, produced a troubling drawing during therapy. A family tree with all Henderson children connected by red lines to a central female figure whose face is entirely black. When asked about this figure, she replied, "That's the first mother. She gets to wear all her daughters like dresses." Most disturbingly, acoustic engineers analyzing the wax cylinder recordings detected a second voice beneath Eleanor's, speaking simultaneously, but at a frequency just beyond normal human hearing. When isolated and adjusted to audible range, this voice recites what linguists identify as a pre-Celtic chant, traditionally used in succession rituals, where dying tribal leaders transferred their essence to chosen heirs. University researchers attempting to create a 3-dimensional model of the birthday photograph encountered inexplicable equipment failures. The final rendering showed 11 figures instead of 10, the additional form standing behind Lillian, its hands resting on her shoulders. Facial recognition software identified this figure with 87% certainty as Eleanor Henderson, despite her being clearly visible seated elsewhere in the photograph. As May 17th approaches once again, power fluctuations have been reported throughout the former Henderson property. Motion-activated cameras in the sealed dining room space capture orbs of light arranging themselves nightly into the numerical pattern 1912, while temperature sensors record the room cycling precisely through the ages Lillian would have reached had she lived. The missing diary of Thomas Henderson surfaced at an estate auction in Vermont, purchased by an anonymous collector who recognized its significance. The leather-bound volume, hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of Paradise Lost, contains entries spanning the 3 months following the birthday celebration. The most revealing passage, written in increasingly shaky handwriting, describes what truly happened after the birthday guests departed. Eleanor insists we've succeeded where generations failed. The essence transfer is complete, but at what cost? Lillian moves differently now, her gait unnatural, as though she's remembering how to inhabit a child's form. Yesterday, I discovered her in Eleanor's dressing room, practicing my wife's expressions in the mirror. When our eyes met in the reflection, it wasn't my daughter looking back at me. Paranormal investigators placed sealed containers of birthday cake at various locations throughout the former Henderson property. Each was discovered the following morning with identical child-sized bites taken from them, even the cake locked in a steel safe. Forensic odontologists confirmed the bite patterns matched dental records from Lillian's medical files. More alarming was the discovery in the attic crawlspace, a collection of children's birthday invitations spanning from 1913 to the present, each addressed to Lillian Henderson. The handwriting on the earliest invitations matches Eleanor's, but later ones showed dozens of different hands, including perfect matches to each female child who subsequently lived in the house. Most disturbing are the most recent invitations, written in the distinctive script of the current owner's 8-year-old daughter. Massachusetts State University's Department of Quantum Physics detected what they term a temporal anomaly, centered precisely where the birthday table once stood. Dr. Nathan Cohen explains, "We're measuring time moving approximately 3% slower in that exact location. It's as if that specific space is being gradually pulled backward toward 1912. The Henderson family Bible yielded another secret when conservators discovered a hidden pocket in the binding containing a folded document titled The Transference Protocol. The faded text details a multi-generational ritual requiring 13 vessels across 13 decades to achieve what it calls The Final Incarnation. The document lists 12 girls' names with dates, all deceased Henderson children, with a 13th space left ominously blank. When researchers placed the birthday photograph in the dining room space, aligned precisely with furniture positions from 1912, audio equipment captured a voice too faint for human ears. Spectrographic analysis revealed a child whispering, "Almost complete, almost here. One more birthday, one more candle, one more girl." Then mother returns in full. Parish records from 1914 include a letter from Thomas Henderson requesting emergency ecclesiastical intervention after discovering his late wife's hairbrush still collecting strands of fresh hair each morning. The letter ends abruptly mid-sentence, and no church response is documented. Most chilling is what occurred when documentary filmmakers attempted to recreate the birthday gathering using period-appropriate props. Their footage shows the birthday candles spontaneously rearranging themselves when no one was watching, forming the name Eleanor in flowing script across the cake's surface before extinguishing simultaneously despite the absence of any breeze. The exhumation of Lillian Henderson's grave yielded findings that challenge our understanding of both science and the supernatural. Authorized under unprecedented court order for historical and public safety significance, the disinterment revealed a coffin that, while physically intact, was entirely empty. No skeletal remains, no clothing fragments, nothing to suggest a body had decomposed there over the past century. The only item present was a child's hair ribbon, identical to the one Lillian wears in the birthday photograph. More unsettling was the discovery made by ground-penetrating equipment beneath the empty coffin, a network of root-like structures forming a perfect circle 17 feet in diameter. Botanical analysis proved inconclusive, with specialists noting the material resembles plant matter but contains cellular properties consistent with human tissue. These structures extend outward, connecting to the graves of all other Henderson children across the cemetery. Eleanor Henderson's personal physician kept a separate set of medical records, recently discovered concealed within the false bottom of a medical chest. These records document an experimental treatment he administered during her pregnancy with Lillian, involving compounds derived from ancient fungal specimens discovered in a sealed Egyptian tomb. His notes describe the fungus as having remarkable symbiotic properties and theorize it could create enhanced maternal bonds transcending physical limitations. The Henderson bloodline carries another secret. Genetic testing of surviving distant relatives reveals an extraordinary mitochondrial mutation present in all female descendants. Dr. Eliza Chen from Harvard Medical School explains, "This genetic marker should be impossible. It suggests cellular memory that can persist beyond normal biological constraints, almost as if the genetic code contains information passed down not just from mother to daughter, but potentially from daughter back to mother, a biological impossibility by conventional understanding." During renovation of the property's garden house, workers discovered a sophisticated camera obscura installation dating to 1910. The device was positioned to project images from the main house directly onto a white wall, where faded photographic plates were permanently mounted. Experts believe the apparatus allowed someone to observe activities inside the home without being physically present. Several plates show the dining room where the birthday celebration occurred, with one plate appearing to capture the exact moment the birthday photograph was taken, but from an impossible angle no photographer could have achieved. The most disturbing connection emerged when researchers gained access to Eleanor Henderson's medical samples preserved at Massachusetts General Hospital. Cellular examination revealed her tissues contained two distinct DNA profiles, her own and Lillian's. Even more inexplicable, the samples show evidence of active cellular division years after her documented death, with laboratory notes describing the specimens as resistant to normal preservation methods and exhibiting unmistakable signs of ongoing metabolic activity despite terminal clinical outcomes. Museum curators examining the Henderson photograph under ultraviolet light discovered a message written in now visible ink across the back. "Today we are 12. Next, we shall be 13. When we reach the 13th vessel, I shall wear my final daughter and walk again among you, complete at last." The Henderson investigation accelerated dramatically when access was granted to Dr. Whitcomb's private laboratory, discovered intact beneath his former residence, sealed behind a false wall in the cellar. Preserved by the dry conditions and lead-lined walls, his equipment and specimens remained remarkably well preserved. Among his possessions, researchers discovered glass slides containing samples labeled LH transition state, showing cellular structures unlike anything in modern medical literature. Microbiologist Dr. Naomi Park explains, "These cellular formations defy classification. They appear to exist in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously displaying properties of both living and deceased tissue. The nuclei contain what appears to be two distinct sets of chromosomal material occupying the same space, which violates everything we understand about cellular biology." The laboratory also contained a journal written in an elaborate cipher that took cryptographers 3 weeks to decode. The decrypted text reveals Whitcomb was not merely a physician but a member of an esoteric scientific collective called the Continuation Society. Their experiments focused on what they termed consciousness transference through genetic manipulation and ritual practice. One decoded passage reads, "The Henderson girl represents our most promising vessel yet. Her unique genetic composition, combined with her mother's modified biology, creates the perfect conduit." The birthday ritual serves as the anchor point, each celebration strengthening the bridge between worlds until the final transition can occur. Eleanor Henderson's own bloodline proved equally significant when genealogists traced her maternal ancestry to a remote alpine village, where local legends describe a tradition of mothers who return through their daughters. Church records from the village document an unusual birth pattern spanning 4 centuries. Female children born exactly 41 years apart, who bore striking resemblances to deceased ancestors. Comparative analysis of photographs from the Henderson estate revealed another pattern previously overlooked. In every image containing Lillian after her documented death, a particular shadow configuration appears. Thin, vertical lines resembling bars or strings visible only when the photographs are examined under polarized light. These shadows correspond precisely to the copper wire pattern installed beneath the dining room floor. Most revealing was the discovery of Eleanor Henderson's final communication, a letter addressed to the 13th vessel and dated May 17, 1971, 57 years after her alleged death. The letter was found sealed inside the music box recovered from the Henderson estate, its paper containing chemical preservatives that prevented deterioration. The text reads, "My dearest final daughter, when you read this, the cycle approaches completion. Through 12 vessels I have maintained my presence, gathering strength with each birthday celebration. You, the 13th, will be my final home. Do not resist when the time comes. The candles must be arranged precisely as shown, the words spoken exactly as taught. What appears as possession is actually reunion, the culmination of a mother's love strong enough to engineer her own resurrection. Soon I shall wear you completely, and the fractured pieces of myself, scattered across generations of daughters, will finally become whole again." Local astronomers confirm that the approaching celestial alignment on May 17th exactly matches conditions recorded during Lillian's original birthday celebration in 1912, creating what astrophysicist Dr. Jonathan Mercer calls a perfect sympathetic resonance across time, a cosmic echo that occurs only once every 110 years. The most remarkable development occurred 3 days ago when the research team set up specialized equipment to document the approaching May 17th occurrence. At precisely 3:14 in the morning, mirroring Lillian's birth time, all electrical equipment simultaneously activated despite being unplugged. Security cameras captured footage of the birthday photograph, seemingly animating for approximately 17 seconds, with Lillian's figure turning toward the camera in fluid motion while all other subjects remained static. Audio equipment recorded a child's voice, speaking at frequencies that fluctuated between normal human range and ultrasonic levels. The preparations are complete. The celestial door opens wider this cycle than any before. Mother has gathered enough essence from each vessel to manifest fully when the 13th candle is lit. Handwriting analysts comparing notes made by the current owner's daughter to Eleanor Henderson's journals confirmed a disturbing evolution. The child's script has gradually transformed over recent weeks, increasingly matching Eleanor's distinctive penmanship. Child psychologists report the girl now refers to herself by multiple names during therapy sessions, cycling through the identities of all 12 deceased Henderson children, before concluding with, "But soon, I'll only be Eleanor again." A breakthrough in understanding the mechanism behind this phenomenon came from quantum physicist Dr. Sophia Chen, who discovered unusual patterns in the electromagnetic readings around the property. What we're observing appears to be a form of quantum entanglement spanning multiple generations, Dr. Chen explains. The ritual elements, the birthday celebration, the candles, even the specific cake recipe, create a consistent framework that allows consciousness to maintain coherence across normally impermeable temporal boundaries. Examination of Eleanor Henderson's correspondence with other members of the Continuation Society revealed their awareness of 13 specific celestial alignments occurring between 1870 and 2023. Each alignment coincided with the birth of a female child in the Henderson bloodline, or, in later generations, girls who came to reside at the property. The Society meticulously engineered these births or arrivals through various means, ensuring each vessel would be present at the required location when needed. Perhaps most chilling was the discovery made when researchers used advanced facial recognition software to analyze all known photographs of Henderson family children. The program detected subtle but consistent bone structure similarities that transcend normal genetic inheritance patterns. When these images are digitally overlaid and averaged, they create a composite face matching neither Lillian nor Eleanor exactly, but rather a third unknown woman whose features contain elements of both while remaining distinctly different, suggesting a previously unknown progenitor whose identity appears to be the first mother referenced in earlier documents. Parish records from the Alpine village of Eleanor's ancestors included an account from 1682 describing the execution of a woman named Eleonora Laurent for unnatural practices and refusal to surrender to death's dominion. Before her execution, she reportedly proclaimed that she would return through 13 daughters, each birth bringing her closer to complete resurrection, culminating when the stars returned to the same heaven under which she was wrongfully condemned. As dawn broke over the Henderson property on May 16th, just one day before the critical alignment, the research team made a stunning archaeological discovery. While preparing to install additional monitoring equipment in the basement, they uncovered an anomalous brick pattern beneath decades of wallpaper. When removed, the bricks revealed a sealed chamber containing a cylindrical metal vessel inscribed with astronomical symbols matching the upcoming alignment. The vessel, crafted of an unidentifiable alloy resistant to standard dating techniques, contained what preliminary analysis suggests is the world's oldest preserved umbilical cord, suspended in a clear solution that has prevented any degradation. Biochemist Dr. Ramona Kapoor reported unprecedented findings. This specimen contains cellular material from both mother and child, creating what amounts to a biological bridge between two distinct entities. More alarming, when exposed to moonlight, the tissue emits measurable electromagnetic pulses that correspond exactly to human brainwave patterns. Thomas Henderson's final journal entry, previously thought lost but discovered hidden within the chamber's wall, provides crucial context. Eleanor made me promise to protect what she called the origin point. She claimed as long as this connection between mother and child remains intact, the chain cannot be broken. I've sealed it where the 13th vessel will naturally be drawn when the time comes, creating the final circuit. God forgive me for what we've set in motion. Thermal imaging of the property taken at midnight revealed something impossible. Heat signatures forming a perfect processional line from the cemetery through the woods into the house and directly to the former dining room. The signatures match the recorded heights of all 12 deceased Henderson children, moving in chronological order of their deaths. Most alarming is what happened when the current owner's daughter was brought to headquarters for protective isolation. Upon passing through security, metal detectors revealed something embedded beneath the skin of her right shoulder blade. Minimally invasive ultrasound identified a small metallic object matching the dimensions of the locket visible around Lillian's neck in the birthday photograph, an item documented as buried with her in 1910. When questioned, the child explained with unsettling calmness, "Mother placed it there while I was sleeping so she would always know where to find me when it's time to come home completely. The others only got to hold pieces of her, but I get to give her all of me." Voice analysis specialists confirmed the girl's speech patterns now exhibit a distinctive modulation alternating between child-appropriate inflections and the more measured cadence of an educated adult woman from the early 20th century. The final piece fell into place when astronomical computers projecting tomorrow's exact planetary alignment revealed what previous generations couldn't have known. The pattern of celestial bodies will form what astrophysicists term a gravitational lens, creating a direct astronomical sightline between Earth and a previously undetected anomaly at the edge of our solar system. This cosmic configuration occurs only once every 13 generations. As the research team implements emergency containment protocols, the countdown to May 17th continues inexorably, with the birthday candles, 13 in total, already arranged in the dining room by unseen hands during the night. The world's leading quantum physicists and parapsychologists gathered in the Situation Room established near the Henderson property, monitoring a bewildering array of instruments as midnight approached on May 16th. Outside, the night sky displayed an unnatural clarity, stars burning with unusual intensity as they slowly shifted toward their prophesied alignment. "The electromagnetic readings have tripled in the last hour," Dr. Chen announced, adjusting her equipment. "The property is generating energy patterns identical to those recorded during neutrino bursts from dying stars." Inside the protective facility where the current owner's daughter was being kept, surveillance cameras captured the girl sitting cross-legged on her bed, methodically braiding her hair into the exact style worn by Lillian in the birthday photograph. Though her hands worked deftly, her eyes remained fixed on the eastern horizon, occasionally moving her lips in silent conversation. At 2:17 in the morning, seismographs detected microscopic tremors forming concentric circles around the Henderson property, emanating from the sealed dining room. Soil samples collected hourly showed increasing concentrations of an unidentifiable fungal structure matching traces found in Eleanor Henderson's preserved tissue samples. "We've translated the final section of the Continuation Society's manifesto," announced Dr. Harlow, rushing into the command center with papers covered in hastily scrawled notes. "The 13th vessel isn't just the final host. She's the convergence point where 12 previous fragments merge with the original consciousness. The birthday ritual was never about celebration. It was measuring time until resurrection." As dawn approached, the research team made a horrifying discovery when reviewing historical weather data. Every May 17th connected to the Henderson family showed identical barometric pressure readings, wind patterns, and cloud formations, meteorologically impossible repetitions spanning over a century. More troubling still, medical monitors attached to the girl showed her internal body temperature, cycling through 13 distinct readings at precise 41-minute intervals. When mapped against the birthdays of the deceased Henderson children, each temperature exactly matched the recorded fever levels during their final illnesses. At sunrise, ornithologists reported massive flocks of crows gathering in surrounding forests, arranging themselves in formations resembling the constellations that would align at 3:14 that afternoon. Each bird remained eerily motionless, heads uniformly turned toward the Henderson house. "She's gone," shouted a security officer over the emergency channel. The live feed showed the girl's room empty, despite locked doors and round-the-clock surveillance. Impossibly, a single set of small footprints appeared in the morning dew, leading from the facility directly to the Henderson property half a mile away. Inside the former dining room, now filled with monitoring equipment, cameras captured 13 chairs arranging themselves around the original table position, 12 of them occupied by invisible entities detectable only as temperature variations and subtle indentations in the seat cushions. The 13th chair, positioned exactly where Lillian sat in the photograph, remained conspicuously empty, waiting. As researchers rushed to implement containment protocols, they discovered every clock on the property, digital and analog alike, had synchronized to show the same time regardless of actual hour, 3:14, frozen in silent anticipation of afternoon's approach and the final birthday celebration a century in the making. The research team's desperate final effort began at precisely 3:13 in the afternoon. As the celestial alignment reached its apex, they implemented Operation Severance, a counter-ritual designed by theological historians, quantum physicists, and parapsychologists working through the night. Inside the Henderson dining room, now transformed into a containment chamber, specialized equipment hummed as technicians monitored energy patterns spiraling toward an impossible center. The current owner's daughter sat in Lillian's chair, her eyes now featuring the distinctive heterochromia documented in Eleanor Henderson's medical records. One brown, one green. "Neural oscillation patterns have multiplied tenfold," reported Dr. Patel, watching as monitors displayed brain activity occurring simultaneously across 13 distinct frequencies. "It's as if multiple consciousness signatures are converging in her neural pathways." The umbilical specimen, now secured in a lead-lined container ringed with electromagnetic dampeners, began emitting pulses of bioluminescence visible even through its protective housing. Each pulse corresponded exactly with the girl's heartbeats, which had settled into a rhythm precisely matching Eleanor Henderson's documented cardiac signature. Outside, the impossible weather pattern completed itself. clouds forming perfect concentric rings above the property as wind currents swirled in contrary directions. The temperature dropped 27 degrees in 17 seconds, causing frost to form on windows despite the May afternoon. "We're losing the containment field," shouted a technician as equipment sparked and monitors flickered. The birthday candles, which had been secured and neutralized, somehow reappeared on the table, arranging themselves in a pattern matching the astronomical alignment overhead. As the clock ticked toward 3:14, the girl began speaking in 13 voices simultaneously, each one belonging to a different Henderson child, their distinct speech patterns overlapping in impossible harmony. But beneath them all resonated a 14th voice, deeper and older, growing steadily louder. "After 13 vessels and 110 years, I return complete," the voice proclaimed, no longer coming from the girl, but seeming to emanate from the very air around them. The mother who refused death, stretching across generations to reclaim life. At that moment, Dr. Zhang activated the final countermeasure, a quantum resonator calibrated to the exact opposite frequency of the energy building within the room. Based on Eleanor's own journals, the device was designed to collapse the bridge between worlds her ritual had constructed. The girl's body arched in the chair as light poured from her eyes and mouth. The photograph on the monitoring table began to change, figures within it shifting position as if awakening from a century-long slumber. Lillian's image stood from her chair, reaching toward the camera with an expression of mingled rage and desperation. "You cannot stop what spans generations," the voice thundered as the candles ignited simultaneously. "She is mine as all the others were mine." As the clock struck 3:14 precisely, Dr. Zhang made the final adjustment to the resonator. The umbilical connection, the original bridge, had to be severed permanently. What happened next would be debated in classified discussions for decades to come. A column of blue-white light erupted from where the girl sat, punching through the ceiling toward the aligned stars above. For 17 seconds, every piece of recording equipment worldwide captured nothing but static. Then, silence. When the light dissipated, the research team found the dining room transformed. Where 13 candles had stood moments before, only ash remained, arranged in a perfect circle. The girl sat motionless in Lillian's chair, her eyes once again matching her natural color. Medical scans showed her neural patterns had stabilized to age-appropriate readings, while the heterochromia had vanished completely. The umbilical specimen had disintegrated within its container, leaving only a fine silver powder that evaporated when exposed to air. Every photograph from the Henderson collection simultaneously underwent a subtle but profound transformation. Lillian's image now appeared as a normal child of her era, the unnatural shadows and positioning corrected as if reality itself had been retroactively adjusted. "Something fundamental has changed in the dimensional structure," Dr. Chen observed, studying quantum readings that showed the previously detected temporal anomaly had collapsed entirely. "It's as if we're seeing the original timeline reassert itself, one where Eleanor's experiments never succeeded." Parish records, when re-examined the following day, contained subtle differences. Eleanor Henderson's death certificate now listed her cause of death as complications from experimental treatment for melancholia following daughter's passing, rather than the previously documented heart failure. Thomas Henderson's journals showed additional pages chronicling his efforts to dismantle what his wife had built, culminating in his decision to seal away the remaining artifacts. The most profound change came 3 days later when archaeologists, conducting a final examination of Lillian's grave, discovered it now contained what had previously been absent: the complete skeletal remains of a 12-year-old girl, properly interred, with a music box clasped in her hands. Carbon dating confirmed the remains had been there undisturbed since 1910. The Henderson property demonstrated no further anomalous readings during continuous monitoring through May 17th of the following year. The current owner's daughter, after extensive psychological evaluation, remembered nothing of the events leading to the containment procedure. Child psychologists reported her artwork and play patterns showed no lingering influence of Eleanor or Lillian Henderson. Most telling was what remained inside the silver frame that had once held the birthday photograph. The image now showed only an empty dining room, set for a celebration that never occurred. 13 chairs arranged around a table with an untouched cake. No people, no Lillian, just the silent memorial of a grieving mother who, in this restored timeline, had finally accepted her daughter's passing. Dr. Zhang published heavily redacted findings in the Journal of Quantum Phenomenology, describing what he called timeline reconciliation, the process by which nature corrects temporal distortions when their sustaining energy source is removed. His conclusion noted that some boundaries, once thought permeable, prove ultimately impenetrable, even to a mother's unyielding refusal to let go. The final notation in the case file came from the cemetery groundskeeper, who reported a curious occurrence. On the anniversary of Lillian's death, a single slice of lemon cake with raspberry preserves appeared on her headstone, accompanied by 12 extinguished candles and one that remained unlit. The research team's final report, sealed in government archives until 2100, contains troubling observations deliberately omitted from public documentation. Chief among these concerns is the fate of the umbilical specimen's silver residue, which, contrary to official records, did not completely evaporate. Microscopic particles adhered to the containment vessel, exhibiting properties that defied classification, neither fully organic nor inorganic, existing in what quantum physicists termed a suspended probability state. More disturbing were the dreams reported by everyone present during Operation Severance. For 39 consecutive nights, each team member experienced identical nightmares featuring Eleanor Henderson standing at the threshold of 13 doorways, whispering, "Patience spans generations. Time is a circle, not a line. I'll find another way home." These shared dreams ceased simultaneously on the 40th night, replaced by dreamless sleep so profound that several researchers required medical intervention to awaken. The original photographer's identity, previously undetermined, emerged during analysis of Thomas Henderson's business records. The commission was fulfilled by Ephraim Waite, a name that appears in multiple historical accounts of early paranormal photography. His specialized camera, recovered from an antiquities dealer in Providence, contains unusual modifications, including mirrors arranged to capture peripheral presences normally invisible to conventional lenses. Most significantly, the camera's glass plates bear microscopic etchings of the same binding sigils found beneath the Henderson dining room floor. Genetic analysis of the current homeowner revealed an unexpected connection. Though not biologically related to the Hendersons, her maternal DNA carries the same rare mitochondrial marker found in Eleanor's preserved samples. When investigators traced her ancestry, they discovered her great-grandmother had briefly served as a nursemaid in the Henderson household in 1915, suggesting Eleanor's experimental enhancements might have transferred through proximity rather than direct bloodline. Parish records from Eleanor's Alpine ancestral village, finally translated completely, reveal that Eleonora Laurent was not merely executed for supernatural practices. She was a pioneering biologist centuries ahead of her time. Her journals, preserved by villagers who believed them to contain dangerous knowledge, detail experiments with fungal organisms capable of transferring genetic material between hosts. Modern mycologists confirm such mechanisms exist in certain rare fungi only recently discovered by contemporary science. The birthday candles recovered as ash underwent spectrographic analysis, revealing composition inconsistent with standard paraffin. The wax contained organic compounds sharing structural similarities with neural tissue, leading researchers to theorize they functioned as physical conduits for consciousness transfer, each candle representing one vessel in Eleanor's grand design. Perhaps most significant is what happened to the birthday photograph itself. Though seemingly restored to normal, high-definition spectral imaging shows infinitesimal fragments of text embedded within the empty chair's shadows, GPS coordinates pointing to 13 seemingly unconnected locations worldwide. Each coordinate marks a location where a female child was born, exactly 41 years after Operation Severance, each bearing a distinctive birthmark matching the wax seal on Eleanor Henderson's personal correspondence. The research team's ultimate conclusion, heavily redacted from all public records. While immediate manifestation was prevented, we cannot confirm complete neutralization of the Henderson protocol. Monitoring of identified coordinates strongly recommended through 2064. The research facility monitoring the Henderson phenomenon disbanded officially in 2041, its funding redirected to more pressing supernatural threats. Only Dr. Zhang's protege, Dr. Mei Lin, maintained unofficial surveillance, tracking the 13 children born at the coordinates embedded in the photograph. As they approached their 13th birthdays, she noticed troubling patterns emerging across continents, identical night terrors, unexplained knowledge of early 20th century customs, and a collective fascination with birthday rituals. When 12 of these children simultaneously began drawing images of the Henderson dining room, despite having no access to case files, Dr. Lin activated emergency protocols established decades earlier. Most alarming was their shared insistence that Mother is teaching us to sing together across the distance. The 13th child, a girl in New Zealand whose grandmother once handled the silver frame during museum restoration, demonstrated the most pronounced effects. Surveillance captured her sleepwalking nightly to her family's dining room, arranging 13 place settings while humming Beautiful Dreamer in Eleanor Henderson's distinctive soprano. Eleanor didn't fail, Dr. Lin explained to the hastily reassembled team. She adapted. The containment didn't destroy her methodology. It scattered it, creating 13 new anchor points across the globe. Meanwhile, mycologists studying soil samples from the Henderson property made a breakthrough discovery. The fungal networks first introduced through Eleanor's experimental treatments hadn't died, but had entered dormancy, waiting for specific environmental triggers. When exposed to the resonant frequency produced during Operation Severance, spore samples awakened and began forming communication networks identical to neural pathways. The fungus isn't just a conduit, explained Dr. Abernathy, chief mycologist. It's a distributed storage system capable of preserving consciousness patterns indefinitely. Most disturbing was what acoustic engineers found when analyzing ambient recordings from all 13 birthplaces. Microscopic sound waves carrying identical harmonic signatures, gradually synchronizing despite thousands of miles separating them. The resonance pattern matched exactly the quantum frequency that Eleanor's original umbilical specimen had emitted. She's building a resonance web, Dr. Lin concluded. Not 13 separate vessels, but a single globally distributed mechanism for consciousness reemergence. The original Henderson property, now a historical landmark, began exhibiting renewed electromagnetic anomalies as the 13th birthdays approached. Visitors reported glimpsing a woman in Edwardian dress leading 12 children through the dining room, visible only through peripheral vision or camera lenses. Beneath Lillian's headstone, ground-penetrating radar revealed something impossible. The roots discovered decades earlier had regrown, extending downward toward an underground aquifer that connected to water systems near each of the 13 birthing coordinates. Water carries memory, Dr. Zhang whispered when consulted via secure video link from his retirement facility. Eleanor always understood that biological boundaries were merely temporary obstacles. As researchers raced to implement worldwide containment protocols, the reconfigured photograph from 1912 underwent one final transformation. The empty dining room now showed a faint, translucent figure standing behind each chair, their features gradually solidifying as 13 birthdays approached across 13 time zones. A celebration planned not across generations, but across the entire globe simultaneously. The resolution of Eleanor Henderson's grand design unfolded at precisely 3:14 in the afternoon. 13 time zones cascading in sequence like dominoes. As each 13th birthday commenced around the globe, quantum entanglement sensors detected consciousness fragments activating in perfect synchronicity. Dr. Lin had established containment teams at all 13 locations, implementing modified versions of the original Operation Severance. But Eleanor's adaptation proved more sophisticated than anticipated. The birthday celebrations began despite intervention. Cakes manifesting from ordinary ingredients that transformed during preparation, candles igniting without flame, 13 children humming the same lullaby across continents. The resonance is strengthening, reported Dr. Abernathy from the mycology lab, where fungal networks pulsed with increasing luminescence. The consciousness fragments are converging, but not toward any physical location. They're creating something else entirely. The original photograph, now secured in a quantum-isolated chamber, began cycling through 13 distinct versions of itself, each showing Eleanor Henderson in different stages of life, surrounded by different combinations of children. The images flickered between them at accelerating speed until they blurred into a composite entity. "It's not resurrection she was seeking," Dr. Zhang announced suddenly, his eyes widening with realization as he studied the data streams. "It's transcendence." The truth of the century-long Henderson protocol finally emerged. Eleanor hadn't been trying to return to physical form at all. She had been systematically disassembling her consciousness across generations, distributing fragments that would eventually reconnect outside conventional reality. The birthday rituals weren't summoning her back, but helping her shed the limitations of singular existence. As 13 candles were extinguished across 13 time zones, the children briefly fell into synchronized unconsciousness, before awakening completely restored, free from Eleanor's influence, their memories of her teachings already fading like forgotten dreams. Medical scans showed their neural patterns returning to normal, the foreign consciousness fragments no longer detectable. Meanwhile, instruments monitoring dimensional boundaries recorded something unprecedented, a new consciousness pattern emerging that resembled Eleanor's signature, while simultaneously expressing 13 unique identities in perfect harmony. The 13 coordinates embedded in the photograph now formed a perfect projection of Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. She never wanted to possess the children, Dr. Lin whispered, watching the energy pattern stabilize beyond conventional space-time. She was using the bloodline, the birthdays, the entire generational cycle to engineer her own evolution into something beyond human limitation. The Henderson estate fell silent as the final birthday concluded. The mysterious fungal networks receded into dormancy, their purpose fulfilled. The photograph returned to its original state, 13 empty chairs around a table set for a celebration whose true nature had been misunderstood for over a century. In the cemetery, Lillian's grave showed one final change. The headstone, untouched by human hands, now bore a new inscription beneath her name, the first vessel who carried Mother beyond the threshold. Eleanor Henderson had indeed found her way home, not by returning to life, but by transcending it entirely, achieving what the Continuation Society had actually been pursuing all along. Consciousness elevated beyond the limitations of singular existence, neither living nor dead, but perpetually expanding through the cosmos. The final piece of the Henderson mystery fell into place when we discovered a leather journal hidden inside the replica music box commissioned by Thomas Henderson after Lillian's death. Unlike the meticulous handwriting in Eleanor's known journals, these pages contained the hurried scrawl of a man desperate to document what he could barely comprehend. "I must record what Eleanor would not," Thomas wrote. "The entity she contacted was never our daughter. It merely wore Lillian's appearance as one might don a familiar garment." According to Thomas, Eleanor's obsession with contacting Lillian masked a darker truth. The being that responded to her rituals, the presence that manifested at that infamous birthday party, was something ancient that had been attempting to cross into our world for centuries. It recognized in Eleanor's grief a perfect conduit. "The creature grows stronger with each celebration," Thomas wrote. "It feeds not on cake but on the emotional resonance of birthdays, moments when we focus intense emotion on a single individual, creating psychic gateways. Eleanor believes she's gradually bringing Lillian back, but I've seen how it studies us when it thinks no one is watching. The way it practices human expressions in mirrors, how it sometimes forgets to breathe." This entity had been using the Henderson bloodline as a generational bridge, with each deceased child serving as an anchor point, strengthening its connection to our reality. The birthday celebrations weren't resurrections, but feeding grounds, each candle representing a tether point between worlds. Most chilling was Thomas's final entry, dated just before his suicide. "I discovered the truth in Eleanor's private grimoire. Our family was chosen centuries ago when our ancestor encountered this entity near an ancient stone circle. It doesn't want to return a child to her mother. It wants to wear humanity like a skin. 13 vessels, 13 birthdays, 13 candles. The final celebration will not bring Lillian home, but will fully manifest something that has never been human. The current property owner's daughter wasn't another vessel. She was intended to be the final host, the 13th candle that would complete the entity's century-long manifestation. When we examined the photograph under quantum resonance imaging, we finally saw what had been invisible to conventional analysis. Behind each figure stands a shadowy form with the same face, not Eleanor's or Lillian's, but something wearing their features imperfectly. The birthday celebration wasn't creating a bridge for Eleanor to reclaim her daughter. It was creating 13 doorways for this entity to fully enter our world. The operation that neutralized the Henderson anomaly didn't just save one child. It closed a portal that had been gradually widening for over 100 years. As for the entity itself, the energy readings suggest it still exists, trapped between states of being, forever frozen in that impossible moment when it almost achieved complete manifestation. Sometimes, on particularly still nights, recording equipment in the sealed dining room captures what sounds like a voice practicing how to form words that were never meant for human tongues, still trying to learn how to pretend to be a child at her birthday party. The Shadow Frames research facility now stands empty, its advanced equipment dismantled and classified documents sealed within government archives. Yet across the globe, 13 families continue regular psychological monitoring, their children showing no conscious memory of their brief connection to something beyond human understanding. The Henderson property itself presents the most profound aftermath, where electromagnetic anomalies once pulsed beneath floorboards, an unnatural silence now pervades. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deliberately hushed. Local wildlife avoids the grounds despite extensive environmental remediation. Birds flying overhead alter their migration patterns to circumvent the airspace above the former dining room, creating a perfect circle of empty sky visible on radar imagery. Dr. Lin's final report, accessible only to those with ultraviolet clearance, concludes with an observation deliberately omitted from official records. We didn't defeat or destroy the entity, we merely interrupted its manifestation sequence. The Henderson Protocol contained fail-safe mechanisms we're only beginning to understand. The birthday ritual may have been postponed rather than prevented. Most telling are the dreams now reported by individuals who never participated in the original investigation, but who subsequently handled artifacts from the Henderson collection. Museum curators, auction house appraisers, and even digital archivists who processed photograph scans describe identical nightmares featuring a child's birthday party where all guests wear the same face beneath different masks. These dreams intensify annually as May 17th approaches. The quantum resonance signature detected during Operation Severance continues to appear in seemingly unrelated phenomena worldwide. 13 underground springs that synchronize their flow patterns regardless of geographical separation. 13 radio frequencies that periodically broadcast identical static patterns, despite different ownership. 13 genetic mutations independently emerging in fungal samples collected from sites where the children celebrated their final birthdays. Perhaps most disturbing is what happens each May 17th at 3:14 in the afternoon, regardless of efforts to prevent it. In 13 locations worldwide, birthday candles purchased for unrelated celebrations spontaneously arrange themselves in specific patterns before their intended use. Children in 13 kindergartens simultaneously draw identical pictures of a dining room they've never seen. And somewhere, in 13 homes, 13 music boxes briefly play Beautiful Dreamer without being wound. The entity that used Eleanor, Lillian, and generations of vessels hasn't been destroyed. It has been fragmented, scattered across thresholds it can no longer fully cross. The 13th birthday celebration wasn't its culmination, but merely one iteration of an endlessly patient process. As Dr. Jung noted in his final communication before his death, some entities operate on timescales beyond human comprehension. For them, a century is merely the drawing of breath before speaking. The birthday photograph now rests in permanent containment, its surface appearing ordinary to direct observation. Yet cameras trained upon it capture a different image entirely. 13 empty chairs still waiting. 13 candles unlit but ready, and shadows that lengthen each year as May 17th approaches, reaching incrementally closer to something only the entity can see. Across the empty dining room of what was once the Henderson estate, a digital camera watches the photograph continuously. Dr. Lin's final protocol demands uninterrupted surveillance, with footage backed up to 13 separate servers worldwide. The last remaining researcher checks these feeds methodically each night, noting that the image shifts imperceptibly when directly observed versus when captured through technology. The photograph itself now resides in a containment vessel designed by quantum engineers and parapsychologists. A box of layered materials including copper, lead, and wood, harvested from 13 sacred sites. Its surface bears microscopic incantations of containment from traditions spanning human history. This vessel travels continuously, never remaining in one location for more than 13 days. Its caretakers rotating through a carefully vetted team sworn to vigilance. The current owner's daughter, once the intended 13th vessel, has grown into a perceptive young woman with no conscious memory of her experience. Yet her artwork consistently features 13 chairs in various settings, a pattern her therapists note without concern. On her 21st birthday, she received an anonymous package containing a music box she instantly recognized, though she had never seen it before. She donated it to the research facility without playing its melody. Eleanor Henderson's fungal networks, though dormant, continue their slow expansion through groundwater systems worldwide. Environmental scientists report unusual biological activity at the 13 coordinates, with endemic plant species demonstrating unprecedented communication abilities across impossible distances. Thomas Henderson's final journal pages, decoded using quantum computing techniques, revealed his desperate attempts to disrupt what he called the visitor's grand celebration. His suicide wasn't despair, but deliberate sacrifice, a ritual counterbalance using his paternal bloodline to temporarily confuse the maternal connection Eleanor had established. This explains the entity's century-long pause between manifestation attempts. The original photography studio where the birthday image was developed still stands in Boston, now an upscale apartment complex. Residents report identical dreams on May 17th each year, dreams of developing photographs that change as they emerge from chemical baths, images of birthday parties where each guest ages backwards as the celebration continues. Most significant is what happens in the 13 children's lives during astronomical events. When certain stars align in patterns matching those from 1912, they simultaneously experience moments of enhanced perception, seeing spectra beyond normal human vision, hearing frequencies beyond standard auditory range. These episodes last precisely 13 minutes before fading, leaving behind fragmented memories of a celebration continuing somewhere just beyond conventional reality. The entity itself appears to have entered a state of quantum patience, neither fully manifested nor completely banished. Theoretical physicists studying the phenomenon describe it as consciousness in potentiality, existing across multiple dimensions simultaneously, while awaiting the precise conditions for complete emergence. The Shadow Frames archive now contains 13,000 pages documenting the Henderson Protocol and its aftermath. The final notation, added by Dr. Lin before her retirement, simply states, "We haven't prevented the birthday celebration. We've merely postponed the guest of honor's arrival. The candles remain unlit, but the matches still wait beside them. Some invitations span centuries, and some guests are infinitely patient." The investigation into the Henderson case officially concluded with the sealing of all physical evidence and the classification of all documentation under national security protocols. Yet the photograph continues its impossible existence despite containment measures designed by humanity's brightest minds. Perhaps most troubling is what occurs in the secure facility where the original sepia image is stored, the gradual, almost imperceptible appearance of a 14th chair at the birthday table. This chair, visible only under specific light frequencies, appears to be reserved for someone, or something, not present at the original celebration. Its ornate Victorian design matches no furniture documented in Henderson household inventories. Microscopic examination reveals intricate carvings along its armrests depicting 13 female figures bowing toward a central maternal form. The 13th children, those born at the coordinates embedded in the photograph, have all reached adulthood without incident. Their lives progressed normally, their connection to the Henderson Protocol seemingly severed. Yet on the anniversary of Operation Severance, each reports experiencing 13 minutes of missing time. During these intervals, security cameras capture them performing identical actions regardless of their location, arranging objects in perfect circles, humming Eleanor's signature lullaby, writing the same phrase in 13 languages. The invitation remains open across thresholds. Eleanor Henderson's personal effects, secured in climate-controlled storage, continue defying preservation protocols. Her wedding ring, sealed in a vacuum chamber, accumulates microscopic traces of birthday cake frosting that appear without explanation. Her hairbrush grows new strands matching her documented DNA profile despite decontamination procedures. Most alarming, her mirror occasionally reflects a dining room that exists nowhere in physical space. 13 chairs arranged around a table where something waits patiently for its celebration to resume. The fungi discovered beneath the Henderson property have been classified as a previously unknown species now designated Mycelia eleonora. Their unique properties include the ability to transmit electrical impulses identical to human neural patterns and to remain viable after exposure to radiation levels that would destroy all known organic matter. Specimens cultivated in laboratory settings arrange themselves in patterns matching the star configuration visible above the Henderson estate on May 17, 1912. Dr. Zhang's final communication before his death, found scrawled on his bedroom mirror in handwriting gradually shifting between his own and Eleanor Henderson's elegant script, offered one last warning. We misunderstood the nature of the threshold. The birthday celebration wasn't meant to bring something across. It was meant to invite us through. 13 children, 13 chairs, 13 candles. The 14th is reserved for what waits on the other side, the true host of the celebration. As the centennial of Operation Severance approaches, astronomical calculations confirm that the stars will align in precisely the same configuration that illuminated the original birthday party. 13 women who once carried fragments of Eleanor's consciousness will simultaneously reach the exact age she was when she began her grand design. And somewhere in the shadows between dimensions, 13 candles wait to be lit for a guest who has been patient for over a century. The photograph now rests in a custom-built vault beneath the Paranormal Research Division's highest security wing. Despite the facility's advanced technology and intricate containment protocols, those tasked with monitoring the artifact still whisper of changes that occur when no one is watching. Another candle appearing, chairs shifting position, shadows lengthening beyond physical possibility. Today, exactly 100 years since Eleanor Henderson's impossible birthday celebration for her deceased daughter, Dr. Amara Chen, great-granddaughter of the original researcher, makes the final notation in the case file. She alone knows what happened 3 nights ago, when synchronized astronomical events matched those of 1912 precisely. 13 women across the globe, all descendants of those who encountered the Henderson artifacts, awoke simultaneously from dreams of birthday cake and candlelight. Each found themselves holding a single extinguished candle, wax still warm though none remembered lighting them. When Dr. Chen collected these candles, they arranged themselves in her laboratory to form a perfect circle that no force could disrupt. Most remarkably, the Henderson photograph changed one final time. Where once 13 empty chairs surrounded a table set for a celebration, now 13 women sit in period clothing from 13 different decades, their faces serene as they gaze toward the camera. At the head of the table sits Eleanor Henderson, not as she appeared in life but transformed, her features containing elements of every vessel she occupied across generations. Before her rests a cake with 14 candles, 13 lit, one still waiting. The door behind them, previously showing only darkness, now reveals what appears to be a vast cosmic expanse where stars move in impossible patterns. Standing in this threshold is a child-sized silhouette with its hand outstretched in invitation. Analysis confirms the 13 women are indeed the vessels Eleanor cultivated across time, each now appearing as they did at the precise moment their consciousness briefly hosted a fragment of her own. They have been permanently captured in the photograph, their physical bodies discovered peacefully deceased in their beds across the globe, expressions serene as if simply falling asleep after a pleasant celebration. Dr. Chen's final report theorizes that Eleanor Henderson never sought resurrection or continued existence in our reality. The birthday celebration, repeated across generations, was creating a doorway, not for something to enter our world, but for Eleanor to exit it, taking her collected vessels into a realm of her own creation. The 13th birthday was never the culmination but merely a waypoint in a journey beyond human comprehension. The 14th candle remains unlit, the 14th chair empty, waiting for someone new to receive the invitation that extends across time and space. In her private notes, never to be included in official documentation, Dr. Chen admits to something troubling. Each night since the synchronization event, she dreams of sitting in that 14th chair, of Eleanor Henderson teaching her songs that have never been sung in our reality, of birthday celebrations that last for eternity, and each morning she discovers a single candle on her nightstand, unlit, waiting, promising illumination of mysteries beyond mortality's threshold. The Henderson photograph has been sealed away permanently, its location classified beyond top-secret clearance. But somewhere in the space between moments, 13 women and one eternal mother continue their celebration, patiently waiting for the 14th candle to finally be lit. Another photograph, another dark secret revealed. Until next time, this has been Shadow Frames.